So about 5 minutes later goes by, and I'm looking, and I see a white tail. I'm like, oh, this is it. I get my gun up, I'm waiting, and I had so many shivers in me because I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, and I was just like this. I was like, oh, I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss.
Welcome back to another episode of Northwoods Whitetails. I'm John Moulton, and we're here with
Corey Ryder
and
Tucker Talbot.
All right. So Tucker, you came to Hunt Stock this last year, and you came back this year. I remember talking to you last year, and you said you liked to shed hunt, and you ended up getting your first deer this last year.
Yes, I did.
All right. Are you going to tell us the story about that?
Sure. All right. So it was the first week of shotgun season, and me and my dad were sitting together, and my brother was sitting alone, and it was like 8 o'clock a.m., and so I hear a shot from my brother, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get ready, because you never know, they might come back up.
Right.
And so about 5 minutes later goes by, and I'm looking, and I see a white tail. I'm like, oh, this is it. I get my gun up, I'm waiting, and I had so many shivers in me because I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, and I was just like this. I was like, oh, I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss. And I took a deep breath, and I went, pew. And I waited. Me and my dad waited for like 30 minutes just to go by, just in case. You don't want to spook it.
Yes.
Make it run farther.
Yep. So did you feel confident that you hit it right there?
It was a 50-50 chance.
Okay.
I was a little scared.
It's pretty accurate.
Yeah. And so did you waited 30 minutes. Did you get down and look for blood right away, or?
I did. I might have ran a little bit over there.
Okay.
And I didn't see anything at first. I'm like, oh, no, what's happening? And I was so scared because I didn't want to mess up the shot. I don't want to hurt the deer.
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't want to make a bad shot and make it suffer. So me and my dad, we go out and stuff, and we're looking, and my dad goes, and he points towards a tree. And I'm like, uh-oh, did I shoot the tree? And I look on the tree, and there's blood splattered everywhere.
Okay.
And I'm looking on the ground, I see hair and stuff, and then I see bubbled blood.
Okay.
And
that's a good sign.
Yeah. So we're looking, and I'm like, do I follow the blood trail? Do we wait? So we wait till my brother comes back up to me, and he's like, yeah, I shot it. So he had shot the doe. And so we looked and stuff, and he's like, all right, follow the blood trail. And I followed the blood trail, and I'm walking. I'm like, I don't see it. And my dad points to it. Its head was stuck in between two rocks, dead.
No kidding.
It went like 30 feet.
Oh, awesome.
I made a good shot. I think it was a good shot.
Yep.
My dad even said it was a good shot.
Yeah, you showed me a picture, and it looked like it was a good shot behind the shoulder.
Yep.
So that was your first encounter, but you told me something else. You like to look for shed antlers.
I do like to look for shed antlers. I'm not good at it, but...
Well, it's that's something that Corey and I are both really into, so it's kind of intriguing. So tell us a little bit about looking for shed antlers. You found a pretty good one, though, I guess.
Yeah. So me and my brother, this is about the shed that I found up on last year, and it wasn't a bad shed. I like any shed's a good shed to me.
That's right. That's my motto.
And this is a big mountain. Or it's not a big mountain. It's like a good-sized mountain. So we're walking up on it, and we had set a couple trail cameras out just for like the hunting season and stuff to get a little scouting in. And my brother had found a good shed antler the past year. And so what happened was we went to that spot and we looked around there just in case, because, if there's one shed, there might be another.
Yeah, so was this in like oaks? Was there softwood around?
Yeah, it was oaks and stuff.
Yep.
And this was like a side of the mountain where there was like no snow because the sun was...
There you go.
Yep. and we're looking and stuff, and I'm nothing. And I'm like, there's a field. So what happened was we went down to the bottom where it's like a little gully, and there was a field on the other side. And what's it called? There was like a little beaver dam, and I was trying to cross it and stuff. And I'm like, and my brother's like, just come back. And I'm like, all right. And I kick, and I go, and I watch an antler fly right up. I go, oh my God, I just kicked an antler. And that was the antler I found. It was a pretty funny story. And
Awesome.
the antler my brother had found was like, I don't know, like 500 yards that way towards the sun. And I was like, this little antler looks kind of like yours. He's like, because they were both thick antlers,
Okay.
like good thick antlers. And they were both 8-pointer, or a 4-side, so.
Yep.
And actually, his shed was more chewed up than mine. But mine had like grass cuts in it and stuff. And I'm like, So we take it back home, and we're measuring them and stuff, and we look at them and we put them side to side, and we're like, this is the same deer.
Yep.
And it wasn't that far away. It was like 500 yards.
Yeah, finding matching sets is hard to do sometimes, but that's like the holy grail of shed hunting. Yep. So you're looking forward to hunting this fall.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Going to get out there with your dad again, your brother.
Yep.
All right. So if you get a nice buck, you're going to come back next year, maybe share that experience with us? Okay.
I'm always going to come back. This is
All
the
right.
best place ever.
Tucker, how old are you?
I am 12.
You're 12, and you're from, where are you from?
I'm Mass Hardwick.
Mass Hardwick. So I want to ask you, why or how did you get into hunting and shed hunting?
Well, my family's always like hunting, and like I've watched shed hunters, like all those big shed hunters that are in like Ohio and stuff, and them finding all those big sheds, and I'm like, oh, it seems fun. And like my dad's friends and stuff, they go shed hunting too. But like my dad and my brother aren't into shed hunting. Like my dad, when he goes turkey hunting and stuff, he's found a couple sheds, but not like any, like he's actually trying to look. And I remember, can I share another story or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Go for it.
All right. So that we were ice fishing one day, and the ice was about like 5 inches thick. And I'm like, we're not catching that much. And we're at a sanctuary because my uncle, he works at a sanctuary. And I'm like, I'm going to go take a walk. And I'm walking, and there was like a clump of oak trees. And there were small oaks. And I'm looking, and I find a bone, what I think was a bone. And I bring it back. I'm like, oh, look at this cool bone. And they're like, my uncle's like, oh, no, that's not a bone. That's a chewed up antler. And I'm like, really? I'm like, that was kind of fun. So I go back and and I found about 6 antlers in that one clump of trees. And I went for an hour-long walk around everywhere and to like some other fields and stuff, and didn't find anything.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, I'm going to go back to those oak trees. So I go back to those oak trees and stuff, and I'm like looking around, and I see another shed. I'm like, oh, maybe there's a couple around here. So I grab that, bring it back, and they're like, dude, you got the eye. So I go back and stuff, and I'm looking, and I find another 3-pointer, or side of a 3-pointer.
Right.
And I bring that back, and they're like, oh, keep going out. So I found one more shed. It was side of a 2-pointer, and I'm like looking around, and we're about to leave, and they're calling me back. I'm like, all right. So I'm walking back and stuff, and I look around. I look down, and all I see is a little butt, like a little butt of the antler.
Oh, yep, right on the base. Yep.
And I look and I grab it. It was a spike horn.
No kidding.
That was probably the coolest shed I've ever found.
Yep. Spikes are tough to find.
They are, because they're so small.
Yep. They disappear in the leaves, or they're just the toughest.
One of the great, like my dad's friends, he's a really, really good shed hunter. He's probably found about 100 sheds. And he's really good. He's found drop tine bucks and like sheds and stuff. And I look up to him and stuff. And he found one. He's only found one little spike horn.
Yep.
And then I went to tell him and stuff. He's like, that is so cool and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. It was one of the best sheds I've ever found.
Yeah, awesome. So
Yeah, that's a cool story. Do you have a dog?
I do have a dog.
Have you done any shed hunting with your dog?
I tried to get her into it and stuff, but like, she's a little on the Down syndrome side.
if you maybe you could work with her and maybe do some retrieving.
I might. I think I'm going to try now because, like, I saw your dog,
Gracie.
And it's just like the coolest thing because like they can sniff them out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a rock star.
It must be cool having a dog and like you follow her around and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, it really enhances your shed hunting ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. They can smell them from a long ways, and they do a lot of leg work that we would miss normally. I've got dogs too that do it, and they're not as good as Gracie, but they still find a lot of sheds that I wouldn't find. So
it's just so cool to have a dog that can find the shed and like that it likes what you like too.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, they get a reward out of it. They enjoy being out there, and dogs are awesome.
And getting some exercise too.
Exactly. So, all right. I guess it was good having you on, Tucker.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Welcome back to another episode of Northwoods Whitetails Podcast. We're sitting down here at Huntstock, second year of Huntstock, and we're sitting here with Jason Bruno.
Hey, how you doing?
And Brent Dragon.
Hey.
How's it going?
Second day.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you. You have a YouTube channel that I've been watching for a long time. It's JB Wild Outdoors, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And how many years have you been doing that now?
I think I'm at 3.
3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
I watched you for a bit too early on. I remember you had a bunch of like trail cam videos that they put together or whatever on some funnels. I remember that. That was the first time I ever saw like any of your hunting stuff. So
yeah,
but yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, this is it's been a cool place down here. I mean, it's a different atmosphere. It's a cool place.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good it's cool to see all the faces that you have seen over the years on social media, you know, because like I feel like the like real hardcore deer hunters kind of all are friends with each other on like Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, whatever. It's kind of cool to put, you know,
big get together.
Yeah, they get together.
You know,
yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
and, that was the same reason I wanted to come meet some guys I've been talking to for 3-4 years. You know, never met
online. So, yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah. So what? Why did you start filming? What got you into the whole YouTube scene?
So much of hunting on TV is just completely different than what we do in the Northeast, and I really wanted to show people a different aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And it's just completely different. You know, there's no hunting over fields or food plots, and really wanted to share what I do for younger hunters. Mm-hmm. You know, the hunters, and I mean, since I've grown up, have been in a steady decline. You know, as far as like hunters or whatever. So it just inspire people to get out in the outdoors and do that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And like preserve some memories, I'm sure is.
Oh yeah, a huge part of that is that my friends and I, you know, we make videos. They're always going to be there somewhere in the digital world.
Right? Isn't that cool? Yeah.
It is cool.
I think about that often. It's like, you know, pictures are really cool. I feel like my grandfather's generation or before that, they didn't take pictures, and then it kind of came. The pictures are the thing, and now it's videos. And if you can like tell a story with it, I mean, my grandchildren might be able to see me shoot a big deer, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. So
we didn't get to see our grandfathers do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the part that we've lost.
Yeah.
So this is a great thing.
Agreed.
Yeah. It really, we're preserving history in a way nowadays, I think. So
yeah,
it's cool. No, I think it's cool that you got into it, and I think you're really passionate about it. I could tell from your videos, and I think a lot of the listeners should go check out your channel.
I appreciate that.
For sure. One of my favorites that come to mind is you and your buddy. I think it was Southern Zone, New York, muzzleloader.
Yeah.
And it was that 6-pointer. You guys went all over.
Yeah, that was a good trip. He shot at 3 different bucks that day. The
Yeah.
guy I was with. So we were actually down in Mask. We went down and chased some snow. I'd never been to Mass.
Yeah.
And then when we were down there, we found out we can't hunt Sundays in Mass. And I was like, man, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
He's like, I think I still got my my muzzleloader tags, and that's still going on in New York. So let's just go over there. So that's what we did, and it was just a meat hunt. It was a good time.
Yeah, and you guys ended up with a nice buck. It had a nice rack on him too.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad buck.
Yeah. Do you kind of want to go through that day, like in detail, kind of like your side of the story? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I pick out this spot on Onyx or whatever, just find some public land, and a couple big draws that come together. And I just decided I wanted to go up high, and he wanted to stay down low. So that's what we did. I went up top. I ended up getting to a bunch of does. I shot a doe there, and he shot at a buck. I think we were only hunting for like 20 minutes, and he ended up cutting back and going between us. We were on a semi-small piece, so he ended up going on some private land. And then he shot at another buck, and it blew the end of his ramrod off.
Oh, my
gosh.
gosh.
Got that rubber stopper on him or
Yeah.
whatever, the traditions or whatever they are. Yeah, so that was the second shot, and the third shot he finally got into the deer, never even got up. He laid right there. He shot it in his bed.
No kidding.
I got up and ran, and I had to go, 20 minutes it took me to get over to him, humping it over there to finish him off. So he only had 3 shots.
Oh, shit. That always seems to happen.
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
my gosh. Have you guys ever forgot your ramrod and then noticed when you're in the woods?
No, I haven't
I've
had
done that a few
No,
times.
thank
I
God.
haven't had that happen.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times, like out, a couple miles from the truck or something. I look and I'm like, well, I got one shot. I better make sure it's a really good one. Because,
I haven't had that happen yet. So.
Oh, man, that's awesome. So you were just talking a little earlier about how you guys like to do a lot of brook trout fishing and stuff.
Yes.
That's awesome. We don't get a whole lot of that in Vermont. Yeah, I'm very jealous of you guys. You guys get to get into some like world-class brook trout, pretty much, right?
Yeah, there's some really nice brook
like
trout ponds.
3-pounders and stuff that you guys get into.
Yeah, I mean, I see some of my buddies, they've caught some 5-pounders, which
5-pounders.
is
Wow.
insane, you know what I mean?
That's a state record in Vermont. It's 5.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
6 in New York or something. But yeah, one of my buddies, he's caught literally a handful of them. He's one of the best trout fishermen I ever met. Catch them all on a fly rod in ponds.
Fly around. And do you guys hike in canoes or kayaks? Or?
Both. So hiking canoes, but there's also been there's a lot of ponds that have stash canoes in them from the old timers back in the old days. Mm-hmm. So I go in and find them, and then sometimes go back to those ponds and you just carry a paddle or some.
That's cool.
Oars, whatever's there, whether it's a boat or.
Right.
And I guess they used to haul them in there with snowmobiles back in the day. That's what I was told.
Back before it was illegal, or back before people didn't
I'm pretty sure
care
it was
as
probably
much?
illegal back in the 60s
Right,
or something
right.
still, but they didn't care. Those old timers were a different breed, you know.
They just got away with a little more.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what's your favorite way to hunt in the Adirondacks?
I mean, my favorite way to hunt is definitely tracking. Once you kill a buck doing that, it's just hard to. I mean, it's hard to compare to anything else. I mean, you're going to go get on a good buck to follow. Hopefully, anyways. I mean, it is hard to find them sometimes, but that's hands down my favorite way to hunt. And second to that would be still hunting.
Yep.
But I do set some funnels. I've killed bucks that way too. So, but I found all those places tracking.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, if you have the patience to sit as a tracker, you know the best spots.
Yeah, you do. You find some, and that's where I like to put cameras too. Not that I use them a lot for hunting. Sometimes I don't even check them until the end of the season, but just like to see what kind of bucks grow in different areas. You know what I mean, as far as racks and
genetics and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I like to run a lot of cameras. I have them spaced out, pretty far, and when I find an area that produces big deer, I almost feel like I don't even have to run cameras anymore. I just know that they have what it takes in that area to produce good antler.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But if you're just looking for big bucks, I mean, you don't even need a camera. That's the thing about a track is the fact that you go find it and follow them around. You can tell what they have ish for a rack on their head. You know what I mean? Just the way they carry themselves and whatnot. And
what are some tells that you pick up on when you're tracking about antler size?
how far they walk away from trees.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing. Like when you get on some of these big bucks, they just don't want to get. They don't want to get when they're just meandering. I'm not saying when you jump them or something, they'll run through whatever then. But
right.
when they're just meandering along, whether they're following a doe or whatever, she gets in the thicker stuff and he just stays out in the wide open stuff. And I got to tell you, when you get one that's walking an old logging road and that's all he wants to walk, you're like, man, he's just a pig, you know.
Yeah, that is a good way to tell. What about you, Brent? What are some tells that you pick up on?
Basically the same thing. It's, where we are, a lot of northern Vermont, it's pretty thick, and they gotta figure out a way to get through there. Same thing,
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about all this YouTube stuff and the social media is coming together and finding out that somebody else has or learned the same thing that you have. And we've all kind of learned it all on our own-ish. Don't get me wrong, you know what I mean? We did learn stuff from other people, but it's just cool to meet people that do the same thing. You're like, I am onto something, you know what I mean? I'm not crazy about it.
And it should speed up the next generation, of hunters by listening to these things and seeing them on YouTube. it's going to speed up their process a lot quicker than what it did mine, for sure.
Exactly.
agreed.
There's so much more information readily available to guys that are getting into it. And I think with our society, with our attention spans getting less and less, I feel like if there wasn't as much if there wasn't as much information out there, I feel like guys would get discouraged easier than they might have 30 years ago.
Yep.
Just because of the way people are nowadays.
And I think we were more fortunate back in the day. We had quite a few deer to learn on.
Exactly.
Now the
there
deer
was a lot
density,
more deer. There was a lot more deer.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 90s, it was peak from what I remember in my era. The guys before me, the 50s was insane. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's been a decline in deer population for sure. And I hunt mostly the northern half of the Adirondacks. So we even have less deer than the southern end, you know what I mean? So, and you said, like we talked earlier, you've hunted some of that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's where I started over there. Back in, like you said, in the late '80s.
In the Adirondacks.
Yeah, and it was much easier to learn at that point. I mean, it's hard to learn right now by doing it yourself without this these podcasts that we're talking about.
Absolutely, and. There just seems to be an influx of people that want to come do that. I just think that's cool.
Yeah, hopefully we get more people into it. We need a bigger group
numbers.
of
and there's
numbers
so much
hunters.
mountains there. I mean, I've never ran into anybody there.
No,
Never.
never.
I've cut some boot tracks a couple times, like on my way in or something. But once you get past like that 2 mile mark or 3 mile mark, there's nobody there.
You're on your own.
Yeah, pretty much. You might, maybe once in a while, but very rarely.
Have you ever done any hot tenting?
I haven't.
You haven't? Is that something you'd like to do?
I would do that.
I would love to do it.
But I hunt alone a lot. Well, as you know, there's not a whole lot of us to go do this. Not really. I mean, maybe there are in a combined group, but we're spread all over states and far apart. And I'd love to go do some of that.
Yeah,
I think it'd be fun.
I can't imagine. I've never done it either. But.
I hear some of these guys talk, and I just cannot imagine killing a buck like 10 miles from the road. Like, I think that would do it for me. Like, that would, like, I don't care if it's an 80-inch buck or what it is. I just think that story and that adventure would be worth so much, and I'd love to do some of that stuff while I'm younger, because I know it probably isn't easy, the older you get, to do that kind of stuff, but. No,
you're right. You're right in thinking that way, and I kind of feel the same way. Like I was saying earlier, I hope to do I got a 24-foot pontoon boat with 2 biminis on it, and I'm going to tarp it and camp on that and cots. So I can go out across some big lakes and just dock next to shore and go hunt some country like that.
That's a great idea.
It should be a cool YouTube video anyways.
Yeah, you should do a whole series on it.
Yeah, so just so many ways to go hunt.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I've kind of thought about I have a tent, a guy, Josh Ford, I don't know if you're listening to this or not, but he gave me his old hot tent. It's like it's like a pole tent, and there's a spot for a stove. I got a stove for it, and I just thought that would be cool. Like, for the Adirondacks, just put it up next to my truck in a pull-off and just camp there. You know what I mean? And then at least I'd be in the vicinity and then hunt from there or whatever. But
yeah, if you want my opinion on that, like I don't think, because I thought a lot about the tent camping stuff.
Yep.
And I think I'd rather base camp somewhere where I was easier to get to my vehicle, because you can't ever, especially us that want to hunt snow.
Yeah,
you can't ever control where the snow's going to be.
Right.
Well, if I base camp somewhere and snow's 2 hours from there, I want to be able to go. You know, I don't want to be stuck out in the middle of the woods. So that's just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah. And that tent, it's easy. I can set it up in 5 minutes.
You can bring more stuff that way, too. You know what I mean? It's a little more like home. You know what I mean? Glamping.
Yeah, exactly.
And the technology of this camping stuff now, it's gotten lighter and lighter.
Everything, it's insane.
Yeah, the bags. So it makes it a little easier to get back in there and do a little bit of that.
Some of these guys now that have the truck bed camper cap things, those things are so sick. I would love one of those eventually, that you could just put on in September and you're good to go. You got a bed in there, a little heater, all the storage stuff like pulls out from underneath it. Yeah. And the Tacomas, a lot of the guys, like, Jeremy Ballantyne's got a setup. He drives out to Iowa and he just hunts from his truck, and he stays, and then if he gets one or whatever, he'll go to another state. Yeah. I just feel like that's like the ultimate mobile.
Yeah, I had a Suburban I used to sleep in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you take the back seats out or
I
anything?
did.
You did?
Yeah,
Did you put
they
a
were
bed
never
right
they
in?
were never up. I absolutely blew up mattress in it.
No kidding. Yeah, that's cool.
Worked good. It was terrible on gas. I had to get rid of it. I got like 6 miles a gallon or something. You know what I mean? But
You could just watch the gas gauge go down.
Oh,
when you're going
absolutely.
up a hill.
It was awful. It was
Oh, my
awful. But
gosh.
it was a cool experience. I had it like 12 years and did a lot of exploring in that. So yeah, you
That's
got any
cool.
vehicle? You got a vehicle like that? You like got stuck to? Like you went and did a bunch of exploring or not really?
No, I've always I've got a Toyota Tacoma.
That's good.
I
A
always
lot,
had.
a lot of guys drive them.
Yeah,
Absolutely in the backwoods.
I don't think you can really sleep in the Tacoma, but you probably could. It just wouldn't be very good
Not without a
sleep.
cap on it. Anyway.
No, I've always tried to either I've stayed at buddies' houses like in the general area, or we have a camp in New Hampshire. I stay there quite a bit, but a lot of times, even 2 hours away, I'll go home, even if it's like a 2 hour drive.
Oh yeah, most of the time I do that.
I'll just go home, but it's not the best. I don't think.
I'd rather sleep.
I know.
Like when I'm done that end of the day, man, I'm whooped. I just want to lay down and go to sleep. And
You want to call it a day. I know. But then I look at it this way, too. It's like, do you want to have more shitty sleep somewhere or drive
The 2
home
hours.
and get good sleep in your own bed? So, I mean, I guess you can. And you get a shower and
Yeah.
but I guess there's a million ways to
But then
skin
it's
a
at
cat.
2 hours back the next morning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's the hard part. But that's what I do. The same thing as you, Isaac.
You will, yeah. You'll drive home. Yeah, I know, and I know. It's probably it's good for the wife too. See her more.
Yeah,
no doubt,
for sure.
Stay in some good graces. Maybe get to go again without getting in trouble.
That's right. Yeah, at least you're there for
I got. So as far as like guns that you guys use or whatever, do you guys use scopes or?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you? What do you
1 to 4.
Yeah, 1 to 4 Trijicon.
Yeah.
All right. I've been scope shopping, so that's why I ask. Now, does that have the bell on the front, or has it got just a straight?
No, just a straight tube.
And do you find that you still have just as good a field of view?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's that 1 to 4. I mean, like on 2.5. I mean, that thing it's like with
Absolutely, but I just
your,
didn't know how much it'd change it with missing that bell on the end. So that's good to know.
I think the difference is going to be low light situations. That bell, I believe, is for gathering light.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, that makes sense.
So for your low light situations, the smaller end, you might not be able to gather light. But if you're not sitting on something, you don't really care usually, because you're not really even. Usually, you're not really. If you're a still hunter / tracker, you're not really even in the game right before dark. You're either
at that point.
No, it doesn't really. And I like the red dot.
The red dot.
Yeah.
A lot of guys have been talking about that.
It's just so
lately.
much faster to my eye.
Yeah.
You know, the tracking gun I've had for 20 years. I got a 2 to 7 loophole with a shotgun scope with a turkey reticle.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fast because, man, if you got deer inside that circle, if you got brown in it, you're gonna. As long as they're close, you know what I mean. But
Exactly.
it's really a sub 50, 60 yard gun.
Yeah, that's why that
Terrible without
Trijicon triangle, the post that I have. I mean, that red triangle's on it, and it's pretty. Just pull the trigger.
That's cool. I'm gonna check them out. I was looking at it was a 1.5 to 5 loopholed fire dot.
Yeah,
I think it's called or something like that. That's a cool looking scope.
I have 2 guns, 2 rifles. I have a 7600 with a peep, and then I have a 7600 with a 1.5 to 5 or 4. I can't remember. Leupold, and it's just crosshairs.
yeah.
And depending on the day, I'll run one or the other. I like the peep sight when it's raining. I like the peep sight when it's really bad snow. But I've killed so many bucks with a scope, and I feel like I'm just as fast, honestly. I really do. The only thing I think, the big, like, what's the word? I'm missing words right now. What's the word? Not improvement. Where the peep sight would be better. What am I looking for here? You help me out here, Brent. Where the peep would be better. I'm missing words.
Looks like charades right now.
Yeah, I know.
All right, act it out.
The big,
it's 2 words.
Yeah, 2 words. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Advantage. There it
Big
is.
advantage.
I got it.
Advantage,
The advantage that I've found for the peep sight is just for the bad weather.
Yeah.
I think my speed is similar with both of them.
I like the scope. The older, I mean, I'm 57 years old, so the vision is important to me.
Great.
And that's why I have to have a scope. Really, just helps me that much more.
Same. I use it for looking all the time. Just
Yeah.
like I would. I don't want to carry binoculars.
Right. Me too.
And I try to peep, but I'm not a very good shot with it.
No.
I'm just not. I just didn't grow up that
No,
way.
me neither.
So, but when I've been to Maine one time, and when I went to Maine, I was like, I understand. Because the
Why?
first time,
Yeah.
like I just never, those cedar bottoms in there, are just like no wonder. Like we have some cedar swamps in the Adirondacks, but it's just not the same.
Yep. Yeah.
Just not, And
20 yards is a big shot.
It's like anything else. I guess
Maine,
you just get used to what you're using, and I don't think much about it. Actually, you know what I started using last year that works really well is a piece of like a chamois you use for your car, because it works when it's wet.
Yeah.
To wipe your scope off.
No
It's
kidding.
awesome. So I just cut a piece of that out, and I keep it in my pocket or whatever. And if you got a bottle of water, any water, you just get it wet and wring it out. When it's wet, of course, it'll wipe your scope off. And it takes like 3 or 4 seconds, for the fogginess to go away.
Yeah.
Because get that little bit of fogginess, cleans your scope off. Awesome.
That's a good idea.
I just kind of had an idea come to me when we were talking about this. Why don't people spray their scopes with Windex?
With Windex?
Like not Windex, but Rain-X.
Rain-X?
Rain-X?
I don't know.
Because
I
it
guess you-
repels water, right?
Right. Yeah, it does on your windshield.
Man, that's a good idea too. Look at us coming up.
I
with
know. Yeah.
Innovators.
Anyways, yeah, everybody's gonna
Bottle that stuff.
spray Rain-X on your scope. It might work awesome. Because I think it's the chemical or whatever it is. It like the water will touch it and just fall right off.
Yeah, it just beads
Yeah.
up.
Beads
but
up.
But it's always snow that I'm scooping out of my scope. You know what I mean? Here and there. Not that it happens all the time. I try to avoid it all I can, but
That's that chamois. That's the first time I've heard that.
yeah. And I don't use not the like natural chamois, the manufactured chamois, not like the leather or whatever.
The ShamWow.
I mean, maybe you could definitely use one of them. Bring it back.
What's a chamois? Is
A
it
chamois,
just
so
something different?
so a chamois is like what they use when they detail cars to get all that.
Oh, okay.
So they don't get water spots.
Right.
But when it's wet, it soaks up water.
Gotcha.
So it being wet is better than paper towels that I used to carry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm always like trying to use my T-shirt like underneath, like in the cotton. It just makes it worse.
Yeah,
And
then it
it's
makes it
like,
worse. You got smear. So, anyways, that's just something that I picked up.
so
I had an
much
idea
fun.
and used it last year and it worked pretty good anyway. So,
No kidding. Yeah, that's a good idea. So what got you into tracking, if that's your favorite way to deer hunt?
well, growing up, like we did tracking, but not in the sense that, we were sorting out one single buck to go hunt it. You would just get snowfall, and I couldn't tell the difference between a buck and a doe, but I'd follow them all and sneak up on them, and I killed bucks that way. Does also, in places where you could. But that's how it kind of started, and then, I was a big hunter, and one of my buddies, he's not really a hunter, but he's like, man, you got to check out this VHS tape I got. And I was like, oh yeah, what is it? And it was the Benoit's first video there. And I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, that just looks awesome, because I got to that point in my mid to later 20s where I killed a lot of small bucks, you know what I mean? And I was like, I really just want to try to kill some bigger bucks, and it seemed like a good way to do it. So paid to go to the Benoit tracking school there, and I got paired up with Lanny anyways, and we drove some roads and got to be buddies. He asked me to be his cameraman for a season in Ontario. So I went and rode roads with him, and he just taught me like so much stuff, especially just about scouting and telling tracks apart. And I got a Lanny Benoit story. So
Okay.
we're up there in Canada, and there's this brush pile where this track is, and there's no snow on the ground, but we follow this track, and there's like this brush pile with a bunch of trees and stuff, and this deer has just destroyed it. And it's like legit 15, 16 inches behind it. You can see his tines rubbing these other trees, and I'm like, I'm all excited. I'm like, my God, it's an awesome buck. He's like 220. Oh, all right, man. Well, he was just like, he stepped over it. He didn't care. He was like, nah, we don't need to come back here. That's just not, like, he was just, this wasn't his thing, which just goes to show you, like, everybody's got their own thing.
How high his standards were.
Yeah, it's what he wanted to do. He wanted to go kill
Weight.
He didn't care.
Right.
He didn't care about the rat,
Antlers
but I did. You know what I mean? I was like, my God, man, that's just, I can't believe you're not excited about this. Like, I'd just sit here and wait for him, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So that's essentially how I got into it, read their books, and then, of course, once you go do it, and I came home that year and shot my first buck tracking in the Adirondacks, and that was I was hooked ever since,
No kidding. Yeah, so I didn't know that you went and filmed for Lanny for a season.
Yeah.
That must have been really fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. We were just, and it was just him and I.
Wow.
We drove all the way out to, I don't remember, I think it was like 22 hours or something out there.
Yeah, Lake of the
And,
Woods.
yeah, of course, when you're in a truck that long, like, you don't just talk about deer hunting. We really got to be good buddies, and we had a great time. So we did nothing but ride roads from sun up to sundown for like 6 days.
Wow.
Including 2 days of, we went and rented a boat, and then we drive for an hour and then drive in a boat for 45 minutes to get way away from people. And like,
Holy crap.
we traveled shorelines looking for tracks in the sand. Yeah, it was just a great experience. We had a good time together anyway. So, and he taught me I wouldn't be the hunter today without ever meeting him and having that happen. And I don't even know how that happens, but it did. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's a pretty good way to get into tracking, I'd say.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Cut
It's
your
not
teeth
bad.
pretty good, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. But the tracking's so much different in the Adirondacks compared to what they did. The deer just built different. You know what I mean? So
And his big thing was kind of like riding the roads, cut a track, and find a big one that way. Whereas in the Adirondacks, you really can't do a whole lot of that.
there's not a ton, no. But you can go scout that way though. Like
Yep.
as far as like finding trails, because they have to cross roads in some places. It's just the way it is. So like that's kind of how I've started out finding areas. Some of them were on blacktop roads that I found trails. So I'd find where deer trails would cross, and I'd go find deer that way and just start going in there and exploring from that. Last year I went and hunted. I like bow hunting too. So
You do? Do you bow hunt the big woods?
a little bit, but mostly just outside the big woods.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I do have a dream of killing a public land buck with a bow, so that's something I'd like to try to accomplish before the end of my time anyways.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I got to tell you, so because he taught me to scout that way, so I went and did some urban hunting last year, which is just something I wanted to go get, because I just decided I wasn't going to gun hunt at all until archery season was over in the southern zone of New York.
Yeah.
So I didn't get trigger happy and shoot something and not have my tag for later in the season, you know what I mean? So I was driving neighborhoods in cul-de-sacs finding rubs where all the travel corridors. So I was essentially doing the same thing he taught me, but in the urban. I just thought it was funny. I was like, here I am driving down these streets, and these people probably would think I'm like checking out their house or whatever I'm doing. I was like, no, I'm just checking out the rubs you got in your yard.
That's too funny.
How did you do with
Yeah,
that?
how'd you do?
Oh, pretty good, man. I mean, I didn't kill anything, but I saw two big bucks. I saw a 10-point that I had at like 60 yards, maybe like in the mid 120s, 130, and then I had a smasher 9-pointer that probably, like if he'd have been a 10-point, he'd probably been in the 160s. He was just huge, giant, tall tines. I grunted at him, couldn't get him to come over to me or whatever. But it was different hunting. Like the noise bothered me.
Yeah.
Of all the traffic and all the
People.
Yeah, people, like there's hiking trails and stuff. Like you see people walking down hiking trails. It was kind of a wild experience, but it was fun to go do. The ticks were awful. That was the worst part of it.
Oh.
I believe it. With the amount of deer down there, probably.
Yeah, you get 40 ticks. And you looked like your pants were crawling. It was terrible.
Wow. I would love to try some of that suburban bow hunting. I think it'd be very fun. I think the whole aspect of like door knocking and stuff, I think it would be kind of, it would test you in a different kind of way. You'd have to like really, have your people skills on point and, appear as a decent human being.
I was just hunting public land. So
were you?
Yeah, so I was only driving these cul-de-sacs to try to, because it was so weird that the deer, like the funnels were created by buildings, not by
Isn't that something?
topography. So
That's
it was
so funny, yeah.
It was created by how the buildings, and it's the first time I ever went and did it, but it was a lot of fun.
It's a big change-up. It's a big change-up, and I think it could make for some cool content. Like, I love watching Seek One. Their stuff is phenomenal. I think the suburban stuff is really cool. And it's, it's something that it's not going away. There's only going to be more of it as
I don't
time
know
goes
if
on.
I don't know if I'll do much videoing of that stuff. Like, I just...
No, you didn't like it?
No, it's all right, but I mean, I just run a GoPro, and just sitting in a tree stand with a GoPro on you kind of doesn't... It's not great footage, and I just want to stick to the stuff that's more like going.
Adventure-based.
Yeah, adventure-based and going. That's really what fits me anyways.
Yeah. Yes, that's why the way I look at it is kind of like the way Seek One does it. Like they incorporate the door knocking and that whole side of things into their storytelling, because I feel like that is so much of the adventure. it's a different kind of adventure. You know, it's a suburban adventure. You know, you're telling Mrs. White that you're gonna make sure that, you know, there's no litter on her back 40 or whatever, and you'll pick up anything that the homeless people left there or whatever. But
Listen, I
you
think
know.
it's great. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
I'm for all hunting. I don't have like one specific.
Right.
I don't care how you hunt. I like hearing people's stories and whatever they go do.
for
It doesn't
sure.
really matter to me. So.
Well,
It's very interesting how it's changed over the years, you know,
Isn't that
to
something,
be
yeah.
down in the cities.
Yeah.
hunting, yeah.
Hunting, you know.
Yeah.
I know.
If we would have thought of that, you know, 20 years ago, you know.
I know. Well,
but-
do you think the hunting? Well, so, just for an example, like you said, things changing. When my grandfather was alive, like my dad was younger, he said all the guys from Mass, Connecticut, New Jersey would come up to Vermont, like up by where, like where I grew up, and that's where they hunted, and they kind of shot off a lot of the deer, and they had a lot of doe tags during rifle season or whatever. And nowadays, all the Vermonters come down to Mass and Connecticut and New Jersey. It's just kind of weird how things flop, and maybe one day everybody's going to be heading back up to
north.
Vermont. Yeah.
I mean, I've
It's
got
funny.
some dreams of hunting Vermont. I'm going to come and check it out anyway. So.
Yeah, you should. You should.
Yeah.
It's good.
It is.
Yeah, it's just as good as, you know, the Adirondacks, I'd assume, which is it's hard. You know.
No, it's beautiful country. I've drove
Less-
through. I've drove through
Yeah.
a bunch of places over there, driving roads and finding access points and that type of stuff. Because I'm 20 minutes. I'm in Vermont where I live now. So.
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, there's less country for sure, but I think in Vermont, I mean, there's a potential for a big buck if it's big woods. You know, real
Yeah.
big woods. There could be
It's,
a big
it's
buck.
still big woods.
It's big woods.
It's still
yeah.
big woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice country. So I don't know. I'd still like to go. Still like to go try it out. Anyways, no reason
Should.
not to.
Yeah, check a box, right? I like checking boxes. I like to try to kill bucks in different states and stuff. I think it's kind of fun to, you know, look on the wall and say you got that one here and that one, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it makes you more well-rounded too as a deer hunter if you experience more kind of, you know, different kind of country. You know, the more you experience, I think the better you get. I think that's anything in life
it's good.
too.
It's good you say that. So that's like a good point in the fact that I've gone and hunted some other states where there was a lot more deer. Mm-hmm. And I think the best part about that is getting to see deer interaction because it's hard to learn it without seeing it. Mm-hmm. I got to go to Texas for like 5 years, which was cool. My ex-father-in-law owned some land down there, and he managed it. And there wasn't any deer there to start with. And it was cool to see how they progressed based on the feed they got and stuff, and just their mannerisms. Because even though they're not big woods bucks, they still have the same. They're still doing the same things ish. You know what I mean? So it's good to go do that. I've hunted Ohio, Kansas
Yeah.
a couple times. So
They all try to survive.
Yeah, right? None of them want to die.
No,
they all want to go chase does.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny, the cultures, like the deer hunting culture changes so much. Like down south, I've heard, like in Texas, for example, it's so different than the Northeast or like the Southeast or whatever.
It's just all different.
It's
but
all
it's still
different.
very cool to see.
Yeah,
So
all the different stuff.
The Texas I was in was like Northwest Texas, so it was like big high hills and deep ravines.
No kidding.
So it wasn't like
Was there trees?
not that you could get a tree stand in.
Like shrubs and
Yeah, like
kind of
mesquite trees.
mesquite
Yeah, and they don't
stuff?
grow very. Like you couldn't get. There wasn't any. Everything was on the ground. There was rattlesnakes there too.
Yeah?
Saw a couple of them.
Did
Yeah,
you?
I didn't
No
care for
kidding.
that.
No.
Some pigs. That was cool. Shot a couple of pigs. They were great eating.
No, I bet they
So,
were.
It was a cool place. Anyway, so yeah, I think any experience that you get to go do in the outdoors, deer hunting, and get to experience deer is just learning and helping you anywhere else because they're doing the same thing regardless if it's spread out.
So I heard you talking earlier. You said you've killed, or maybe it was yesterday. You've killed a 200-pounder in the Adirondacks.
Yeah, I won
What did it weigh?
218.
218. Do you want to tell the story about your 200-pounder in the Adirondacks?
Yeah, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So there was actually another buck that I'd found that I tracked him the year before. He was with a doe, and I didn't catch his track till, I don't know, 3:30 in the afternoon or something like that. So I was going a little too fast, and I ended up bumping him and ran him till dark. He kept turning around. I kept thinking I was going to catch him standing in one of these openings. So anyways, fast forward like the next year, I got a picture of that buck too, he was a smasher 8-pointer. And as I'm going in there, there's this spot, and this buck had run across the road like 3 times in the middle of the day. And he had really small feet, but I couldn't believe how he was sinking into the hard pack. I was like, man, this is a huge bodied deer. Well, this bottom he was in held a lot of does, and it didn't matter if I was 3 or 4 miles away. If I was on a buck track, it was coming down through this, so I'd been through it a bunch. I was familiar with it. So the next morning, it was a Sunday, November 7th, like 10, 12 degrees in the morning, no snow on the ground. Of course, the leaves are like cornflakes. I'm just trying to set like the tone, you know what I mean? So like every step you can hear from a long way. You hear a pin drop. So I was like, I'm going to go in and hunt this bottom. I'm just going to still hunt the edge of this cedar gut, essentially, that went 3/4 or a mile or something like that. And I just started still hunting, didn't see anything. And all of a sudden I can hear a deer coming. I hear it crunching. But he's crunching like at an angle away from me. So when he's walking, I started walking like toward him at an angle. So this went on for, because you know how big bucks are, man. They walk and then they stop for a bit and hang out, and you're like, I don't know where he went. And stand for 10 minutes, and then he start walking. I hear him again, so kept walking closer and closer. I get to a point, and I can hear him come up out, and at this point, he's definitely in the leaves, you know what I mean, on the edge of this hardwoods and where it meets the cedar swamp. And so I can't see him because there's a bunch of greens in front of me, so I crouch down. One good reason for being short, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So I crouch down. I'm not kidding you. So the first, I got him like this, and I'm watching him come out, and he comes out, and he's standing kind of quartered to me, makes a scrape, and he was hitting a licking branch, and that's when I shot at him the first time. And I wasn't even sure if I hit him because I shot through some stuff. He runs. I run to my right, pump 2 more. I end up hitting him 3 times, all 3 times. I go over to him, he's laying on the ground, and I was just like, my God, what a behemoth of a deer, you know. And he was actually one of the hardest dying deer I'd ever shot. You know what I mean? It took him a while. I sat with him for a bit. I don't know if you guys ever do that, but like sometimes you go up and it's kind of like that surreal, I don't know if, you know, some hunters, I don't know if they experience that or don't experience that, but it's kind of a surreal thing where you're sitting there and you're just taking this big buck's life, and you have some appreciation and some regret, even with the excitement.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it was a 3/4 of a mile drag on bare ground out.
Wow.
So I had to go get my buddy to help me, and he was bitching at me.
I bet he was.
Sure he was.
Man, that must have drug like not good.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find a picture of him.
Yeah. That's a great story. Bare ground too.
Yeah, I've killed quite a few deer bare ground. My father was a still hunter.
Yeah.
So he really taught me. He grew up in the southern tier, but he was just a still hunter no matter what. You know, whether he was there in the Adirondacks. So he was just a methodical hunter. So I got that. I definitely got that from him. I tried to go fast like Lanny and shoot stuff, but it didn't work. It didn't work for me.
It doesn't work for me either a lot of times.
And then I listened to Joe Donito speak, and I was like, man, you know what? You're right. I do better when I'm just going slower.
Yeah. They take it back a few notches. That's great.
Nice.
All right, here we go.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful buck.
Yes, sir.
He was
Nice and heavy, huh?
Yeah, big body, not a huge rack though.
No kidding.
But
yeah.
he was 7.5.
Sometimes I think they have one or the other. You know, like that's what a lot of guys say.
They do just have one or the other.
One
So
or the other.
that's one of the things I learned. The reason I just changed my style. I spent a lot of time looking for huge bucks like that, and there's just not that many of them. And I wasted a lot of time waiting for them or doing whatever. And I've just gone to a different style at this point in my hunting. And that's the thing. So like those deer that are in that 160 to 190 pound range have the biggest racks.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
No question.
For sure. And, you know, when I'm in the big woods, I'll always take a decent track. Like, if I think it's a decent buck track, I'll take it because you just never know.
You don't.
You know, I'm not that picky anyway, but if it's big, that's great.
Listen,
but
there's nothing wrong with that. So, like, I started out the same way. I just got to this point where I was like, I want to kill a massive buck, and if I start at it right now, maybe I'll get one in my lifetime tracking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how I feel in the game I'm on. I don't want to promote that and think, hey, this is what you're supposed to go do.
Right.
Because that is one thing. Maybe you run into that too. Do you ever run into guys and they're telling you a story about their buck and they feel kind of downtrodden about the buck they killed a little bit?
I hate that.
And you're
Yeah,
like,
I
man,
hate
like
it.
if you were happy about killing that buck,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you were,
Yeah.
I don't know why you think that telling me this story changes that or something. You know what I mean?
social media, I think, has really hurt that a lot. And, like, You should not be ashamed of pulling the trigger, man.
No.
I
It's,
pulled
you
the
know.
trigger on so many small deer.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! You should see the 3-pointers I got.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. They
Killed a
ate
pile
good,
of them.
bud.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if I have tags floating around, a middle 4-pointer on the right day does not want to walk by me because he's gonna get it, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if I don't have any meat in the freezer, like come the end of the year,
Yeah.
I don't post any pictures of that, but I just
yeah,
shoot them. You know what I mean?
right,
bud?
yeah. Hey,
It's
Show
still,
you a
get
picture, yeah.
still exciting.
No,
it is
is
still
exciting.
and
Yeah.
it's still a story, and it's still
If it wasn't exciting, I wouldn't want to do it.
exactly.
You know?
Same.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like to kill my meat with a bow. It's like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the does and the smaller bucks.
yeah,
with the
does
bow.
and smaller bucks. You know what I mean? 2-year-old bucks with a bow, they're all still fun. Even does. I mean, I just like shooting stuff
Yeah.
with a bow.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, no kidding. This has been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Yeah.
appreciate having me
thanks
on.
for hopping on. This was
I
awesome.
really appreciate this podcast. I listen to it all the time. I tell people about it, and I hear the same thing from other people that I run into. They talk about your guys' podcast and how much they really like it. So it's awesome you're doing that, and we appreciate it.
That's
Yeah.
great, man. Yeah, we'll have to get you back on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If you want to come and do some brook trout fishing or something,
I
we
would
can
love
do
that. We'll have to collab on
Yeah.
YouTube. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we can do that too. We could go make
Yeah.
a YouTube thing or something. I
That'd
didn't even
be
think
cool.
about that. I was just thinking about fishing. But
Yeah, that too.
yeah, I'll get you a doctor's note or something for your
Cool.
wife.
That would be great. How about my boss?
Oh no, absolutely, I can do that. We'll
say-
tell him it's for training or something.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Same
All
notepad.
right, man. I appreciate it. All
right,
right,
sounds
boys.
good.
We'll
Good.
see you on the next one.